All right, Cowboys Nation, buckle up because we need to talk about what is happening with the Dallas Cowboys right now. And it is more complicated than most people realize. The team has been struggling to find a rhythm on defense, and there are more questions than answers surrounding the coaching staff, specifically when it comes to Matt Eberflus and whether or not he deserves to stay. The conversation starts with the internal coaching options, which is always a tricky area because these are guys who have been around the league, but sometimes being familiar does not necessarily mean being effective. Andre Curtis, for example, is the passing game coordinator and has ties to Eberflus from their Chicago days. That connection might sound good on paper, but when you look at the way the secondary and linebacker units have performed, it is clear that familiarity has not translated into success. There are coverage breakdowns, blown assignments, and fundamentally, the defense is just not performing at the level the Cowboys needed to, and it raises the question of whether promoting someone internally really solves the problem. J.J. Clark, another internal option, has experience calling plays, but mostly at smaller colleges, and while he has been a defensive assistant, it is fair to question whether that is enough to suddenly take on the role of defensive coordinator in the NFL. And if you're thinking about shaking things up mid-season, Aaron White-Cotton becomes the hypothetical choice. He is an outsider relative to Eberflus, and maybe giving him a chance as an interim could provide a fresh perspective. The defensive line has been underperforming, sure, but the secondary has been the area causing the biggest headaches, with coverage mistakes stacking up week after week. And maybe, just maybe, someone like White-Cotton could implement more man coverage schemes, bring back elements reminiscent of Robert Saleh's style, and move away from the zone-heavy strategies that have been consistently failing. The reality, though, is that internal options often come with limits. Jerry Jones has a well-known reluctance to fire coaches during the season, even coordinators, which complicates any immediate decisions. Historically, mid-season firings are rare, and the Cowboys tend to lean toward stability, sometimes to their detriment. Even when there were rumors about letting go of Mike Nolan, the situation shifted quickly when the media spotlight intensified, showing that internal politics and public perception play a huge role in the timing of coaching changes. It is a scenario that might mean nothing happens until the end of the season, leaving fans frustrated as the defense continues to struggle. Hiring an outside candidate mid-season is even less likely, which leaves the organization with internal options and planning for the offseason as the main avenues to make meaningful change. That said, exploring external options for the future remains an important conversation. There are categories of candidates that the Cowboys could consider. Regime change candidates from other teams, promising young coaches who might not have extensive defensive coordinator experience, currently unemployed veterans with past success, and experienced coordinators who have proven themselves in previous roles. Looking at regime change candidates, there are coaches out there whose current situations might change by the end of the season, making them potential targets. Aaron Glenn, for instance, has experience and a preference for man coverage, which is something the Cowboys desperately need, but his current circumstances are complicated, and it is uncertain if he would be available. Steve Wills has been on the radar before, familiar to the organization, but does not inspire the same level of excitement or confidence that other options might. Anthony Weaver in Miami has faced challenges with a defense that has underperformed, making him a questionable option despite some prior head coaching experience. Jim Schwartz in Cleveland and Denard Wilson in Tennessee present interesting possibilities as well, with Wilson being a bit of an under-the-radar name who has handled defensive responsibilities well in the past, even if the team's overall performance has been inconsistent. For the Cowboys, considering these options requires not just evaluating past success, but also whether the fit aligns with what the team needs structurally and philosophically in the long term. The up-and-comers category introduces a different kind of conversation. Coaches like Al Harris are on the list because, despite prior defensive struggles, there is a belief in potential and learning capacity. It is not about handing someone the job just because they're familiar or likable. It is about putting them through a proper vetting process to see if they have the intelligence, adaptability, and leadership to manage an NFL defense. DeMarcus Coington has experience with the Packers, specifically with the defensive line and run game. And even with challenges, there is reason to believe his understanding of defensive structures could translate well into a coordinator role. Chris Couric and Michael Hutchkins represent names that might not be household, but they bring developmental knowledge and fresh perspectives. Hutchkins, for example, has learned under experienced coaches and is young, which means he could grow into the role if given the opportunity, bringing energy and modern concepts to the defensive schemes. Robert Livingston in college football has shown the ability to produce results, even with players who face fluctuating talent levels, suggesting he could adapt his strategies to the NFL if given a chance. Aubrey Pleasant, with experience coaching defensive backs across multiple teams, also fits the profile of a young coach who is ready to step up, provided he is evaluated fairly and strategically rather than being an afterthought or merely a familiar name. Currently unemployed options provide immediate availability, but come with their own considerations. Mike Zimmer is a known quantity, but his recent defenses have shown vulnerabilities, especially when key personnel were out. Rex Ryan is an interesting mention, given his long absence from coaching and the potential for both brilliance and disruption, as his personality and approach can clash with existing staff structures. Antonio Pierce, Gerard Mayo, and others bring defensive experience, but past performance and the potential for fit with the current Cowboys staff are critical factors. The team has learned that simply hiring someone because of familiarity or a flashy reputation does not guarantee results. Experience needs to be evaluated alongside innovation, adaptability, and alignment with what the players on the field need to execute effectively. Finally, experienced options who have coordinated defenses successfully in the past present a different set of opportunities and risks. Ryan Nielsen has been a defensive coordinator at multiple stops, and while his track record is mixed, his understanding of NFL defenses is undeniable. Leslie Frazier and Jim Leonard are other examples of candidates with substantial resumes who could be considered for the role. Leonard, in particular, stands out because of his prior success at Wisconsin and his current role in Denver, suggesting he has the strategic mindset and leadership qualities necessary to potentially thrive as a Cowboys defensive coordinator. Joe Cullen and Don Wink Martindale represent contrasting styles and philosophies, with Martindale being aggressive and energetic in ways that sometimes frustrate, but also generate results, showing that the right personality and philosophy alignment is crucial. Even names like Ken Norton Jr. are considered, though past performance as a coordinator suggests caution. Each of these individuals offers a different lens through which the Cowboys can address their defensive challenges, from structure and play calling to motivation and scheme. The overarching theme here is that when and if a coaching change occurs, it is imperative for the Cowboys to conduct a thorough search, evaluating internal and external candidates, young up-and-comers, seasoned veterans, and potential dark horses alike. The mistakes of the past, hiring based on familiarity or convenience rather than fit and capability, must be avoided. A well-rounded approach that considers defensive philosophy, player compatibility, and long-term strategy is essential to ensure that whoever steps into the role can deliver sustainable improvement. The options are diverse, the stakes are high, and the decisions made now, or at the end of the season, could define the trajectory of the Cowboys' defense for years to come. As we continue dissecting the Dallas Cowboys' defensive situation, it becomes clear that the decisions ahead are as much about strategy and vision as they are about personnel. The coaching carousel, the potential firings, and the internal versus external options all play a part. But ultimately, what matters most is how the defense performs on the field and whether the new coordinator can establish order and confidence among the players. When evaluating candidates, one must consider not just their past successes, but also how adaptable they are to the modern NFL game, how well they can communicate with players, and whether they can instill discipline without stifling individual talent. The defense has been under constant scrutiny, and fans are growing increasingly impatient with blown coverages and missed assignments. So the next hire cannot be someone who simply maintains the status quo. There needs to be an injection of both strategic sophistication and energy that can revitalize the entire unit, from the defensive line to the secondary. The internal candidates, while familiar, bring both advantages and limitations. Aaron White Cotton, for example, represents a different voice from Eberflus circle, offering an outside perspective while still understanding the team culture. His potential as an interim coordinator could provide the experimentation necessary to test different schemes and assess player responsiveness. It is possible that he could shift the defensive philosophy toward more man coverage, leverage creative blitz packages, and integrate elements that have worked in other successful defenses, while still maintaining enough continuity to keep players grounded. However, the risk remains that internal promotions can sometimes reinforce the same issues rather than resolve them. This is why a careful evaluation of leadership, adaptability, and innovative thinking is critical before making any in-season changes. The Cowboys must avoid repeating past mistakes, where familiarity trumped objective assessment. Looking at the external options, the challenge lies in identifying coaches who are not only talented but also available. Regime change candidates like Aaron Glenn or Denard Wilson offer experience and potentially fresh perspectives, but their availability depends on circumstances outside Dallas, and timing can complicate negotiations. Glenn's proficiency in man coverage and Wilson's under-the-radar expertise could inject new life into the defensive schemes, but acquiring them would require foresight and strategic planning. The Cowboys' front office must weigh whether waiting until the end of the season to pursue these candidates might yield better results, or if an interim solution is necessary to stabilize the defense immediately. The goal is not merely to replace a coach, but to set a foundation for long-term improvement that aligns with the organization's philosophy and player strengths. The younger, up-and-coming coaches represent an entirely different type of opportunity. Al Harris, DeMarcus Covington, Chris Couric, Michael Hutchkins, Robert Livingston, and Aubrey Pleasant each bring unique skill sets and perspectives. Harris, despite past challenges with defensive points per game, shows potential for growth and could bring fresh ideas to a struggling unit. Covington's experience with the Packers' defensive line and run game highlights his ability to manage core defensive components, while Couric has consistently developed strong defensive line play at multiple stops, demonstrating both teaching ability and scheme understanding. Hutchkins, though only 30 years old, has been learning under experienced mentors and could offer innovative approaches that younger players might resonate with, combining modern strategy with energy and relatability. Livingston's success at the collegiate level indicates an ability to adapt schemes to available talent, a crucial skill in today's NFL where roster composition and injuries can drastically impact performance. Aubrey Pleasant, a former player and longtime defensive backs coach, represents a blend of on-field experience and technical coaching acumen, capable of enhancing secondary performance if given the right support. These up-and-comers are valuable because they can provide a fresh perspective while learning and evolving, but the Cowboys must evaluate them thoroughly rather than handing the role based on familiarity or past reputation. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. There's a storm brewing in Dallas, and this one isn't about the weather. Whispers are spreading fast across the NFL landscape that the Dallas Cowboys have pulled off a major coup, reportedly securing star cornerback Patrick Surtain to lead what could become one of the most formidable defenses in recent memory. While no official confirmation has been made, sources close to the situation suggest that the deal is all but done, sending shockwaves through the league and igniting wild excitement among Cowboys fans. If true, this would be a blockbuster move, signaling that the Cowboys are all in on a championship push. Surtain, known for his elite coverage skills and calm under pressure, has been one of the most coveted defensive backs since entering the league. His arrival in Dallas could transform the secondary overnight, pairing him with a rising defensive core that already boasts speed, aggression, and swagger. According to those around the star, the team's front office has been working quietly behind the scenes for weeks, determined to solidify the back end of Dan Quinn's, or possibly Mike Zimmer's, defensive unit. Insiders say that negotiations reached a fever pitch late last week, and that Surtain himself is reportedly excited about the possibility of wearing the iconic blue and silver. The Cowboys, long criticized for their inability to close big defensive deals, might finally have found their answer to years of inconsistency in the secondary. With SURTAIN locking down one side of the field, opposing quarterbacks could soon be facing a nightmare every Sunday. Still, until an official announcement drops, this remains in the realm of speculation. Yet, the whispers are growing louder by the hour, and where there's smoke in Dallas, there's usually fire. If this move becomes reality, it could redefine the Cowboys' identity, a team no longer relying solely on offensive fireworks, but one ready to dominate through defense. For now, fans wait, social media buzzes, and the NFL world holds its breath. Could the Cowboys really have pulled this off? The rumor mill says yes, and the rest of the league might soon be forced to believe it. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.